Hello and welcome back to the Fighting Talk 2 channel. We are the Fighting Talk 2 team minus the eloquent analyst this week. Again, unfortunately, he cannot make it tonight. But we have Casual Crush Corner as always. How are we doing, George?
All good, mate. Thank you. All good. How about yourself?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Nice to see your lovely face again. I feel like it's been at least 24 hours.
About that, mate. Yeah, about that to a T, I reckon.
Just shy of, I think. Just shy of. Now, it is a very special episode. We are going to be breaking down UFC 265. How is it's 265, right?
Yeah, man. 265.
It feels strange saying it because I feel like it's come around super, super quick. I feel like it's only like 20 minutes ago we had 265, 265, 263. I mean, it feels like last week it was 200.
Yeah, man. Yeah, these numbered cards, man, they just roll on through all the time.
They just seem to really, really fly. And obviously, 264 was Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, which was obviously a massive, massive card on the calendar as well. But this time we have Derrick, the Black Beast Lewis versus the. I don't know how to describe his rise to the top, but Cyril Gane is somehow fighting very, very high up the food chain here. I mean, what's your take on this? We've spoken about this before on this show about how he's seemed to make this massive, massive run for the title, although he's only 9-0, and his past few fights haven't really been overly exciting. But we're obviously going to break down the fight a little bit later. But what is it that Cyril Gane has that no one else has in the heavyweight division that has propelled him to the front running?
Man, that's really hard to pinpoint what it quite is about Cyril Gane. I feel like he came into the UFC with a little bit of hype, but it only had like 3 professional fights when he came into the UFC. So you can't really claim that. Maybe it's because France is a new market for MMA. Now it's kind of like become legalized in France. And possibly because they want to push this Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou narrative, ex-training partners. Maybe the UFC are thinking, man, we could do a big, big title fight potentially in Paris, sell a lot of pay-per-view, etc., etc. Maybe that's why it's being pushed. It's hard to say why, because Cyril Gane hasn't been the most exciting fighter in the UFC. But at the end of the day, it's about winning in this sport, and Cyril Gane is winning. So hence why he's probably here.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there because we've had fighters in the past that have just won and just got a good win, and that's kind of it. And they haven't really made the same rise to contention as Cyril Gane has. But another thing, how can you make a sport illegal in a country? I just really don't understand, especially when it's one that is so legitimized around the world. It's like saying, right, that's it. You're not allowed to do jiu-jitsu anymore. Someone died of it 28 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you something, actually. I kind of agree with you about the Cyril Gane thing in the sense that, just winning sometimes isn't enough. If we're being frank about this, this is for a title fight. But both these gentlemen feel like the third guy in line because Stipe arguably deserves a trilogy fight with Ngannou. And obviously there's John Jones as well, but John Jones wants about $100 million to actually fight again. So he's not getting that from tight ass Dana anytime soon. And so because of that, obviously we found ourselves in this scenario where Derrick Lewis, who is the best contender ranked that's available to fight, and they're looking for someone else to come in. And I suppose they've picked the guy who's got a little bit of hype around him to fight for this interim title. The fact is that now Stipe and John Jones are going to miss out, and it is going to be one of these two guys. Whoever wins on Saturday is going to fight for the title next, because that's what interim title belt gives you.
I mean, this whole interim title thing is just very, very peculiar to me because why are they giving it to Derrick Lewis and Cyril Gane when Stipe's sat there going, well, I deserve a third fight because I beat him the first time, he beat me the second, and now we're all of a sudden in this predicament of, what's happening with Stipe. And he posted something on social media recently saying, about going to one championship, and he would probably do very, very well in one championship, but end of the day, He's not the youngest man in the world anymore. You know, does he need to fight anymore? Probably not. Probably not. But alas, we will get back to that very, very shortly. On the early prelims, there is a gentleman that you were very, very hyped up about while he was coming into the UFC. And when he made his debut, you were very, very hyped on him. I can see your face. It's starting to drop because you know exactly what's coming now. And then he took his loss on his debut, and then he took another loss on his second fight in the UFC. And now, is it three strikes and you're out? I'm not sure. With the amount of hype this gentleman had coming behind him, I'm not sure if it's 3 strikes and you're out, or if he'll be able to get this win and turn it around. But Manel Cap versus, Cape, it's Kape. I think it's Manel Cap.
I think it's Manel Cap. Yeah, I think it is Cap.
I'll tell you what, if we get it wrong, Manel, I'm sorry, but you're fighting Ode Osborne, man. And George, what do you think about this fight? Because Ode Osborne's had a few good wins recently, and Manel obviously hasn't. But Manel's got a lot more experience than Ode coming into this bout. Do you think that's going to pay dividends in this fight to get him the win?
It can do, but sometimes being on a winning streak is arguably more important, that kind of confidence that you get from that. So in that aspect, Ode Osborne is going to be feeling probably more confident going into this. There's serious amounts of pressure on Manel Cape. You know, he came into the UFC a Ryzen champion. You know, we've seen other guys from Ryzen, you know, Jiri Prochazka is the best example, who come over and they've taken the UFC by storm. And, you know, that hasn't happened for Manel Cape. So there is a lot of pressure. It is not good to go 0-3 in your first 3 fights in the UFC. You are on very, very thin ice at that point. So I think he probably would get away with it if he lost, but I said he desperately needs this win, man. He really does need to get a win. And it's not about making this win look pretty. It's about making this win however possible. It doesn't matter how you get it done. Just get it done on Saturday. I did give this guy a lot of hype going into it, and he has not lived up to it so far. Saturday night is a big, big night for Manel Cape. He needs to put on some kind of performance. Otherwise, he could be looking down the barrel of a potential cut in the UFC, I think, because Dana White ain't messing around. He never messes around, this guy. If he doesn't see it, he has cut other guys prematurely. It wouldn't be surprising maybe if he ended up maybe giving Manel Cape the exit door. But I think he'll get it done. I think he will get it done. I think the move to AKA to join Javier Mendez, and obviously now Coach Habib, that is now seems to be taking over that, you know, that group of that gym. I think that's not a bad move to make, and let's see if he can get it done on Saturday. It's a big night for him though.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like when he came into the UFC, he seems to go to the decision a lot more. You know, prior to coming into the UFC, when he was in Ryzen, he was getting a lot of wins before the end of the bell. But now it seems that if it does go to a decision, he is more than likely going to lose. You know, he obviously fought on the Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad card, and he lost a split decision, which was very unfortunate because if my memory serves me right, there was quite a lot of, you know, backwards and forwards as to whether he actually did lose the fight. But, you know, he clearly did. And maybe this time it's, you know, he's going to have to throw caution to the wind and really go for broke and try and get the win inside of the distance here. Otherwise, if it goes to the judges, you know, on paper, and if you were a betting man, if it goes to the judges, he's probably going to take a loss here.
Yeah, man. And I think Manel Cape has realized that, you know, as we say on this podcast sometimes, there's levels to the game. Like, Ryzen is a great promotion. It produces great fighters, but the UFC is the top promotion. The best fighters fight in the UFC. And Manel Cape needs to back up his ideas big time, because at the moment, whatever he's been doing isn't working. You got to go back to the drawing board, come up with a new game plan, and come in and do, like you said, like what he was doing in Ryzen. He wasn't leaving it to the judges. He was getting finishes. He needs to look back at that and come up with a new game plan for Saturday night. Because like I said, he needs the win, man. He needs that win.
No, I mean, you know, if it is 3 strikes and you're out, on paper, he's going to be in a different promotion after this fight because he just, you know, there's nothing he's going to be able to do. Nothing.
Man, If he loses this and he gets cut, go back to Ryzen. He speaks Japanese apparently. Just head back there and crack on at Ryzen.
Fair play to him. Fair play. Man. He can speak Japanese.
Apparently so. Most of his tweets and most of his Instagram is all in Japanese.
I mean, who knew? Who knew? That's insane. That is insane. Man. Now, there's another fighter on this card that you have been very, very hyped up about. I mean, to be honest with you, we both have, and Prathing involved in that as well. We've all been very hyped about this gentleman because his last win out against Renato Carneiro. Moicano. But it's on paper it says Carneiro.
Mate, I don't know. These Brazilians, man, they've got all these crazy, different names.
Yeah, it's like a middle name or something. Sometimes they use their middle name. It's weird. And then you only find out when you've known them for about 10 years. They're like, oh, my name's actually Darren. And you're like, what? I thought it was Javier. Strange. But no, Renato Moicano, he obviously beat with one of the best finishing sequences I think I can remember. And it was like left hook, right hand, slip, roll, left hook, leg kick. It was all go, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. When Rafael Fiziev gets into that kind of state that he finds himself in, the flow state, he's very hard to stop. Very different, but kind of the same kind of thing. Like when Dustin Poirier gets into that kind of groove, it's very hard to stop. But Fiziev's got that same kind of thing where once he's in the fight and he's comfortable, you're in big trouble. And we've seen that against Moicano. We saw that against Diakaze. Once he's there, you're going to struggle because the striking, the kickboxing, it's at an elite level. And this guy is so close now to breaking the top 15. He would not surprise me if in the next 12 months, we're talking about a guy who's ranked 7 or 8 in the world. He's really, really fantastic. And that kind of background as well from Tiger Muay Thai, incredible gym. He now does his training camps before the UFC fights at Sanford in Florida, another amazing gym, obviously with Michael Chandler and Gilbert Burns and guys like that are there. This guy is seriously elite, man. He is really very good. And I'm expecting another spectacular striking display on Saturday. I think Bobby Green, who's obviously a veteran of the game, has got himself a tough old challenge on Saturday night because Rafael Fiziev feels like he's coming and he feels like he's a little bit, not quite yet, but a little bit of a dark horse.
I mean, he's going to have to do something very, very, very special to put Bobby Green away because this man is an absolute murderer and he does not go down for anyone. In his last 9 fights, they have all gone to decision.
Yep.
Every single one of them. Win, lose, or draw. They have all gone to a decision. So, maybe he's not in there to knock you out and maybe he's, not in there to get knocked out, clearly. I mean, 7 decision losses, 10 decision wins, only 8 TKOs in his record of 27 wins, but 9 submissions. Perhaps the submissions are going to be where he's going to be pushing for at this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we haven't seen Fiziev's kind of ground game, so that's an unknown quantity. So for sure, that is absolutely somewhere to try and challenge him. It'd be interesting to see or to find out what Fiziev's takedown defense is like. I imagine that's probably pretty decent. But yeah, if I'm Bobby Green, that's where I'm looking to go. And I agree with you, man. He's gonna be very, very hard to get out of there for Fiziev. I'm expecting this to go to decision again. And I'm going to say, though, that Fiziev wins probably 30-27. I can see him winning all 3 rounds here.
Very, very controversial. Very controversial. You think he's going to win all 3 rounds? Bobby Green is not going to get anything in there.
I truly think that Fiziev is going to put on a clinic. He's not going to get him out of there, but he's going to make that striking game is going to come to fruition once again. And he's just going to control that throughout that 15 minutes. Bobby Green's going to come in there swinging for the bleachers, maybe try and get him down to try and. But I feel when I've watched Fiziev, I look at a guy who, on top of the great striking, there's also great IQ, and that's come from being at great gyms. And I feel like Fiziev has got the IQ to navigate his way through a fight with a very erratic and dangerous guy that Bobby Green is.
I'm just looking forward to seeing the fight, man. I feel like we've been speaking about Fiziev for a while, and I feel like he hasn't been out for a very, very long time. Being a coach as well, I can imagine there's probably quite a lot of pressure because you are the one teaching other people, right? So if you're the one delivering the class and then you're the one fighting, people are looking at you going, right, well, he's teaching me how to win. So he needs to win now, because what is he teaching me then? Do you know what I mean? There must be quite a lot of pressure for a coach to be out there fighting.
Totally, man. Definitely. And the guys that he's coaching, he's not coaching like amateurs. I mean, he's been really heavily involved recently in my guy Shavkat Rakhmanov's kind of rise. He's been a big kind of player in his coaching development. So, there is pressure. When you see guys like when you coach Shavkat Rakhmanov and he goes out and puts on incredible displays like he has been, the pressure comes back on you to do the same. So there is a level of pressure on Fiziev, especially as well because everyone is starting to know who he is, what he's about, and the hype train. The train is starting to roll out the station now. It's starting to head for that hill, going downwards, and this is a test. Bobby Green is a great test. Come through, go like that, people will start to talk about you more and more, and that ranking gets closer and closer.
I mean, this is a great spot for him as well, heading up the prelims. Because if you look at the early prelims, you got your boy Manel versus O'Day heading up the early prelims. You look up the card, you've got Bobby Green versus Fiziev on the heading up the preliminary card. So it's a very good spot for him to get quite a lot of eyes onto his performance as well.
Certainly, man. Like we always say this on this podcast, top of the prelims is a great one, especially when you look at throughout the whole card when you get a stacked card, and especially when you've got someone like Derrick Lewis fighting at the top of the card. People tune in for that guy. He is a magnet for people. So people 100% going to be tuning on Saturday night. As well that the crowd's going to be absolutely raucous because it's Derrick Lewis in Houston. So the crowd is going to be well up for it. This is a perfect opportunity for Fiziev to make a statement and to let everyone know that he's a serious player.
Absolutely. I completely agree, man. I completely agree. But we will not write off Bobby Green, because that man can probably not knock you out too well, but he can certainly take you to a decision if he wants to, man.
I'll tell you something as well. Like, he's been around a long time. I think his record is 28-11. Now, that is not unrespectable in mixed martial arts terms. This guy is definitely not going to be it's not going to be an easy night for Fiziev, but I do expect him to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
So yeah, look forward to it.
I think that'll be a banger. And then moving on swiftly to the main card as well. There's some absolute crackers on this. And it's a real shame that we lost the Nunes fight on here due to COVID. As you know, she is one of my favorite fighters of all time, male, female, non-binary, whatever. She's one of the greatest of all time, to hold two belts hold two belts and defend both belts as well. Never been done before by anyone, male or female. It's such a shame that it's not on the card, because I feel like that would have given it a lot more depth and a lot more eyes as well, especially in the Brazilian market. But nevertheless, we have some fantastic fights on here. First up on the main card is Song Yadong versus Casey Kenny. Now, I think this is going to be a great fight because they've got very, very similar records. Casey coming in with 16-3-1, Song Yadong 16-5. So, semi-similar records, but Song, the Kung Fu monkey Yadong, is going to be out here ready to turn up the heat because he had a fantastic run. And then an unfortunate loss last time out to Kyler Phillips. He's going to be wanting to get back in the winning streak, right?
Definitely. He's going to be desperate to get back in that winning streak because we all had him beating Kyler Phillips, moving up those rankings, trying to find his way towards the top 10, highly rated out of a great gym, Uriah Faber's gym, obviously in Sacramento, super highly rated guy. That's being said, though, Casey Kenny, bit of a dark horse as well, close to being, I think he's either not quite ranked or maybe ranked at 15, that kind of area. 16-3, great record. And obviously coming off that very close loss to Dominic Cruz, you know, where he actually gave Cruz some troubles. And when you fight Dominic Cruz, one of the greatest to do it at 135, you know, obviously Praf's guy, man, he loves him. You know, that is such a great learning experience. 15 minutes inside the cage of Dominic Cruz, you walk out of there, whether you win or lose, going, man, I'm a better mixed martial artist because of that. And that could stand Casey Kenny in good stead. This is going to be a great fight. They both lost on the same night. It was on the same card they lost back in March. So they've had both met at the same time to recover. And I'm expecting a bit of a fireworks to open up this main card. I think these two guys are going to come in looking for that, get back on track, get that win to get them back on track. And I'm excited for this one, man. I think this is a great fight. I've always been excited about Casey Kenny, though. I really think he's got something special, and I'm actually going to pick Casey Kenny to win this. He's got legs like tree trunks, that guy, and he kicks like a bull, man. It's pretty. I fancy him to beat up Song Yadong's legs quite badly, and I think he'll get a win here.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Just looking at his record, the wins over the kind of standard fighters that he has had, you know, Ray Borg, Brandon Royval, Louis Smolka, Nathaniel Wood, you know, he's beaten quite a lot of people with quite a lot of steam behind them. And then Song Yadong obviously doesn't, I mean, he's beaten a few cool names, but he hasn't got that same kind of level of fighter, that same caliber of fighter that he's been fighting as well. You know, Marlon Vera got a win over him, Perez, Vince Moraes. And then after that, you're kind of looking at outside the UFC, which, is, as we know, is not really the same caliber of fighter. I'm with you, man. Casey Kenny, I think, is going to get the W this weekend on that.
Yeah, man. I think as well, when I look at both guys, and this is no criticism on Song Yadong, because I think he's a very, very talented mixed martial artist. I feel like when you're in the trenches and you need to dig yourself out, I fancy Casey Kenny to dig himself out better than Song Yadong. I think if he found himself in a bit of trouble on Saturday, he'd find a way to see himself through and be able to come back from that. One, I don't have the same kind of vibe from Song Yadong. I feel like he might potentially, if he was to get himself in a bit of trouble, the case was to get him on the back foot, that he might not crumble, but he might give in a little bit to it. So, and that's another reason for being Casey Kenny. I just think that maybe the mental aspect, Casey Kenny is just that little bit higher up the food chain than Song Yadong is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that kind of leads on to the next fight that I want to talk about, which is Tecia, the Tiny Tornado Torres, coming up against Angela Overkill Hill. Now, Tecia Torres was on a good win streak. You know, she strung together 3 in a row, with her last being against Michelle Waterson before 4 very, very unfortunate losses, but losses against women that are phenomenal at what they do. You know, Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Weili, and then Marina Rodriguez. And you just think, absolute murders of the division. You know, so taking losses to that caliber of women, that's going to put you into very, very good position to be fighting Angela Hill, right?
100%, Matt. And they're running this one back. They fought before in 2015. I think they last fought. So again, fight this one back, bring this one back again. I think it makes sense for Tecia Torres to get this one, to fight this one. It makes sense for Angela Hill as well, to be fair. You know, Angela Hill's got one of those, what I call ugly records. I think she's 13-9 or 13-10. That is not pretty. That is damn poor, if we're being honest. Yeah. And like you said, Tecia Torres is 12-5, I think, and 4 of those losses have been against Murderers Row. Mm-hmm. So when you take that away and kind of look at it, you've got to say that probably Tecia Torres, although it feels like the kind of fight should be hers to win, like, I've never been convinced by Angela Hill. I feel like people really hype her up for not much reason. There's what she really done that's like been super impressive. I'm not convinced. I just don't get it. So I'm gonna pick Tecia Torres to win this. You know, I'm gonna think this is probably gonna go to a decision, probably. And I'm gonna say Tecia Torres picks up a decision win here and gets herself back on track, continues on that to build up that winning streak and move on from what was a difficult 4-fight skid. But like I said, like we've both said, that run, God, anybody would struggle to fight those 4 people and get any kind of win against those 4.
Yeah, no, completely. I think, you know what it is? I think Angela Hill has been in the in the UFC for a very, very long time. 7 years in the UFC in the women's division is, as we know, it's quite a long time. Losing to Rose Namajunas in 2015, losing to Jessica Andrade in 2017, and then it's a very up and down, backwards, forward kind of record. But Angela's obviously coming off a decision win, as most of hers are. 8 decisions, 5 TKOs, but a decision win against Ashley Yoder, who was fighting this weekend as well. But no, I think Tisha Torres has got it in the bag this weekend. I think she's a more dynamic fighter. I think she's a little bit more explosive as well. I really think she's gonna catch a decision win here. I completely agree with you, man. I completely agree.
Definitely, man. It's a nice one though. Obviously when Nunes fell off, we all gutted. It's not a bad one to slip into the main card. It's completely acceptable fight to add into a main card. So yeah, look, it's a good one, but yeah, I'm thinking Tisha Torres here, decision win all day.
To be honest with you, if Tisha Torres versus Angela Hill was the main event of this weekend, I might have been a little bit more invested in it, if I'm honest with you, because I think that's got more draw power than Sean Strickland versus Uriah Hall. I don't know, just me. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I don't disagree with you. Obviously we discussed Sean Strickland last night. Uriah Hall feels like a guy who's a little bit washed up now. Like a little bit, like I said to you last night, there's only so many times you can reel out that tough highlight before you start to go, what else have you done in your career, mate? Sean Strickland's an interesting one because, like we said, he's kind of climbing up the rankings and he's there. He's on the cusp of something quite special, but not really quite yet. I don't disagree with you. I would have been more invested in Tisha Torres, Angela Hill as well. I think it's a nice fight. I think it's a nice one. I think it's a nice one to have on that main card. I think it makes total sense.
No, completely, man, completely. And then we have a fight that I'm very much looking forward to as well. Vicente Lucay versus Michael Kiesa. Now, Kiesa was on a bit of a skid, wasn't he? He wasn't having the best of times at a lower division. He decided to come up, I believe.
Yeah, man, moved up. I think after that, was it after the Kevin Lee loss, where he's like, where it all got pretty heated, and he was like, we had the famous thing, don't talk about my mum at the press conference. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that was fantastic. That's one of the best ones I've seen. But yeah, no, he's moved up and he's found his kind of home now. He's found the type of fighter that he is. He's a guy who's going to pounce on you and he's going to grind you down for 15 minutes or 25 minutes, however long the fight is. That is his game. Everyone knows that's what he's going to do on Saturday. But the difficulty is, how do you stop Kiesa from doing that? It's so far looked incredibly hard. I thought Neil Magny back on Fight Island in January might be the guy. He might be the guy to do that. And he got schooled for 25 minutes. It was a rout. It was 50-45 all day of the week. And this is an interesting fight, though, because Vicente Lucay is on a bit of a roll. He is knocking dudes out. He's submitting guys as well. He's got a nice all-round game. So this is an interesting fight. But I can't look past Kiesa, man. I think that game that he's got going on against guys who aren't at the upper echelon of the division, I think he's got them. I think he's got their number, and I think he's going to grind out Lucay again this weekend. I think that's what we're going to see.
I'm going to have to disagree, man. I think Lucay's got this in the bag.
Finally.
I think Lucay's got this in the bag, because coming out, getting a submission over, fair enough, a declining Tyron Woodley, but he's had fights with Nico Price, absolute battles with Nico Price, losing a decision to Stephen Thompson, beating Mike Perry, Brian Barberina, who we saw at the weekend, who's got a fantastic all-round game and an absolute warrior. An unfortunate loss to Leon Edwards, but beating people like Bilal Muhammad as well. Lucay, he was on a very, very good run. A decision loss where to be fair to him, Stephen Thompson absolutely turned up that night to get the W. He really turned up.
Yeah, man, that's one of Stephen Thompson's best ever performances. He was insane that night.
Mm-hmm. He was.
So yeah, the big thing here though is if whoever wins this on Saturday night, and I can totally see your point about Lucay winning. I can see Kiesa winning this as well. I think it's a real close. It's an either way kind of fight. It's what happens next for that guy, because if whoever wins this, people at the top are going to be saying, "Oh no, I don't want to fight him," because it makes no sense to fight either guy because they're both dangerous, and it gets the person above them absolutely nowhere. They're going to find themselves in a difficult position trying to book themselves fights. But I suppose that who cares for the moment? Just get that win on Saturday night and worry about that afterwards. But I totally can see Lucay, your point about Lucay winning. I just think Kiesa at the moment, I think he's in a bit of a role, and I think he's going to get the job done again on Saturday.
I think he's going to try and overcommit with the takedowns, and he's going to, Lucay's good on the ground as well. He's very good on the ground. Not to say Kiesa's not, but Kiesa's more of a wrestling background. I think Lucay will be able to win the scrambles and be able to either submit him or he'll knock him out, TKO him on the way in. I think it's just he's got quite a lot of power, and I think he's found his rhythm now. I think he's really found his rhythm, and I think he's going to be able to put together a good amount of combinations to finally put him out. I mean, if you look at his last 3 fights, TKO via doctor's stoppage on Nico Price, KO knees and punches on Randy Brown, and then a submission of a declining Tyron Woodley. So I think he's got this.
I'll tell you what, okay, right? If Lucay controls the range nicely, then he will win this. But if he lets Kiesa get a bit too close to the point where he can grab him and put him down, I think that's when Lucay might find himself in a bit of a problem. I think if Lucay is going to win this, I agree with you. I think a knockout, a TKO or a knockout is a more likely scenario than him submitting Kiesa. I'd be surprised if he submitted him. That'd be a bit of a shock, but I could definitely agree with you that he's got some power in those hands, Lucay, and he could get a TKO or a KO potentially if he controls that range nicely and he can find a home for those pretty vicious jabs that he seems to hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely, man.
Great fight, then, man. Great fight.
I think that's yeah. I mean, it's either that one or the next one we're going to talk about. Definitely going to be fight of the night, I think, for me personally.
The next one.
Go on.
The next one is fight of the night. The 2 Brazilian brawlers is going to be fight of the night, I reckon.
I mean, when you think of Jose Aldo, it's very, very unfortunate that people mainly think of the fact that he got knocked out in 13 seconds by Conor McGregor, which is so unfortunate. And he was on such a massive run prior to that, beating people like Ricardo Lamas, Chan Sung Jung, Frankie Edgar, Chand Mendes, Kenny Florian, Uriah Faber, the Cub Swanson, the names that he had on his belt were absolutely fantastic. And then not to say that he hasn't beaten some amazing people after that, but it just seems the loss to Conor McGregor, he had a bounce back fight, Frankie Edgar, managed to get the win, 2 straight losses to Max Holloway, and then beating Jeremy Stevens like everyone else seems to do. Renato Moicano, and then he kind of had a bit of a skid again, which is just unfortunate. But when you think of Jose Aldo, you think, right, this guy's like 37, 38. He's going to be retiring soon, right? The man's 34 years old. He's technically in his ever so slightly out of, but technically still very much in his prime.
Hey, man, well, look, the best fight on the planet right now is Kamaru Usman, and he's 34 years old. So, he's not old, Aldo. He's just been around so long, and he's been an absolute killer, like one of the greats, man. If we're still doing this podcast in 5 years' time, and when Aldo decides to walk away, we'll be saying how this guy's one of the greats. But you're right though. The people, what I will term the casual, will always remember Aldo as the guy who got knocked out by McGregor in 13 seconds, and that is such a poor way to describe Jose Aldo. He's had an unbelievable career so far. He, when he was going into that fight with McGregor, he was literally, everyone was like, why do you want to fight that guy? Like, really? Like, he was an absolute monster. And he still is, because Aldo, when he comes to fight, man. He is all in, and I'm expecting the same on Saturday night. But he is meeting another Brazilian brawler. Pedro Munoz is an absolute little bulldog savage. And I just wonder whether a guy younger, fresher, maybe he might have Aldo, in this fight. Maybe. I actually cannot call this one. I've been thinking about this one for the last couple of days, It's such a tough one to call. It's a huge one though for both fighters. If when you talk about it, whoever wins this, you probably are looking at maybe a Rob Font, maybe someone like that as a potential next opponent. It's a huge fight. Pedro Munoz is desperate to kind of get back to that kind of title eliminator kind of area. He's dropped off a little bit. But yeah, man, this is a great fight between two brawlers, man. Two guys who just want to come to the cage and have a scrap. And that's what we're going to see big time on Saturday, I think. This is definitely, for me, fight of the night potential.
Yeah, the only issue with Munoz is he, if he gets the win, he'd have to fight Rob Font again. They've already had a fight. Would he have to fight Cody Garbrandt or Sterling or Jimmy Rivera? But he's already fought these people quite a lot because he's been around the sport. He's done a lot of fights frequently in the past couple of years, and even for Jose Aldo, who's he going to fight? He's had a loss to Piotr Jan, very unfortunate loss in the 5th round, where he got, I believe it was a body shot from Jan, and then he kind of like crumbled a little bit. A loss to Marlon Moraes, who's now completely declined anyway. A loss to Volkanovski. So both of these guys, I think, are going to have to fight someone that they've already had a fight with prior to be able to stay relevant in the ranking system.
And the problem is as well, man, this division, 135 pound, is stacked. There are so many good fighters that you, like, getting yourself anywhere near that title shot, because obviously Jan and Sterling's booked. You've got obviously old flipping drug cheat Dillashaw is going to be next in line for a title shot. Then maybe is it going to be a Rob Font or a Corey Sandhagen? Maybe even after that. These guys, even if they win on Saturday, there's no guarantee they're any closer to a title shot, to be honest. I just think this fight's been put together because they both haven't been matched up, and it's going to be an absolute war. This is why they've done it. It doesn't do much for them going forwards, but it gives us 15 minutes of entertainment on Saturday, and I'm all in for that. That's what the UFC is about, providing us with entertainment, and this should be a good one. But yeah, man, they're both a long way down the pecking order, because at the moment, I think 135 is probably the most stacked division in the UFC.
Yeah, 135 is full of absolute murderers, man. It's weird to even say that, because a couple of years ago, you'd think 135, 125, if you've got the same in women's divisions, man, they're probably not going to be the biggest beasts in the world. But the levels, they're just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The speed. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the outside fringes, they're light heavyweights, the heavyweights, the 125, 135ers, because typically for most fans, you're going to watch 145 to 185 because they are the, let's go with, inverted commas, kind of more average sized men. And, they're going to be putting on bigger scraps because technically, usually you'd see more knockouts in those divisions because they've got bigger sets of powers and stuff, But I'm buzzing for this, man. I'm buzzing for this because TJ's going to be super up in the mix. Whoever gets a win here is going to, like you say, going to have to fight someone very, very high at the ranking system to get kind of noticed again. But do we ever see Jose Aldo with a strap around his waist again?
I don't think so. I think he had that chance back on Fight Island last year to get that belt. He just ran into a guy who we all agree is just uniquely special. Weirdly enough, I actually rewatched that fight back the other day, the Jan Sterling fight, and I'm absolutely convinced that is going to go only one way on Fight Island in October, and that is with Petr Yan winning back his belt. And I just see this guy. There's so many good fighters at 135, but I actually think Jan's in for a long reign. I don't see many people beating this guy. I think he is uniquely special and so talented that we're going to be talking about this guy. I'm going to say it as maybe one of the greats when it's all done. He's 27 years old. This guy could reign for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I just think that when you look at the guys below him and you look at the age that maybe Aldo is starting to push towards the mid-30s now, I just think it's going to be really hard for Aldo. But that doesn't mean that he's done in the UFC or by any stretch, though. He's going to continue to provide great fights and great entertainment. And like we said when we started talking about this fight, when it's all said and done and we sit down and talk about Jose Aldo, we'll be saying that Jose Aldo is one of the greatest mixed martial artists that we've seen. Forget about the Conor McGregor night. Like, it happens. Like, these crazy moments happen in this sport. When you look at his whole career, Jose Aldo is one of the greats. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, give it 5 or 6 years and he might be going the same way as Overeem. We'd be going one last run. He'll be straight up in the mix. He'll be like 39, just killing all these up and comers.
Yeah, man. Who knows? Maybe.
But that leads us perfectly onto the main event. I am buzzing for this. As we spoke about at the beginning of the episode, it's very, very strange to see a fighter make such a run so quickly in the UFC. So now I'm going to ask you on the spot, who do you think's taking this? I know for a fact you're going with Derrick Lewis, right?
Yeah, man, I'm taking the Black Beast for a couple of reasons. I'm taking the Black Beast, one, because this is in his hometown, and I truly believe that the Black Beast is going to put on a great performance for the people of Houston. No one loves Houston more than Derrick Lewis, and I don't see him letting this opportunity to have an interim title to then fight Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title later on this year. I do not see this slipping through his hands. And I do agree with his assessment that he needs to touch Cyril Gane once. That's the type of power that Derrick Lewis holds. He needs to touch him once, and like Derrick Lewis said, he'll fold. He will crumble. But the thing is, we've never seen Cyril Gane be touched. We don't know. And the problem that people have had so far is that actually Cyril Gane is quite elusive. He's quite hard to find. And I think this either goes one or two ways. This either goes Derrick Lewis knocks him out cold, or Cyril Gane dances around, Derrick Lewis gets no way near him, and he ends up cruising to a decision win. It'll be boring as hell, but he'll end up winning again. That's the only two scenarios I see. I cannot see for the life of me Cyril Gane knocking Derrick Lewis out. I cannot see that one bit. I think it either goes Lewis knockout or Gane decision, and I'm going for the Black Beast to get it done, man. He's universally loved in this sport. He's entertainment value. He's funny as hell. I cannot wait for this week to crack on and start, because all the press conferences, everything is going to be funny. He is that kind of character. And this is the opportunity for Derrick Lewis, man. This is the chance. He's 35 years old. This is the moment. And I'm telling you now, right, if he was to win on Saturday and fight for that title, do not write him off against Francis Ngannou, because like Ngannou, he holds the one-punch knockout power. If he catches Ngannou, it could be lights out and game over, and we could be calling Derrick Lewis a UFC heavyweight champion before the end of the year, which would be mental. But yeah, man, he's going to touch him once. He's going to find that gap. He's going to touch him, and he's going to put him out cold. That's what I'm going with on Saturday night.
I'm with you with this. I think Derrick Lewis has had a lot of frustrating fights where he's like, you know what? I don't get paid to do 15 minutes. I don't get paid to do 25 minutes. I want to get in there. I want to get my job done, and I want to get out because I want to make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible. We've seen him in there against people where he's got a decision. Ilir Latifi, when he just got kind of like held up, managed to get it back, held up again, managed to get it back. It was a bit of a kind of backwards and forwards fight. But then, against when he first fought Francis Ngannou, and it was possibly one of the most boring fights ever in the history of the sport. Between that and Kimbo Slice, rest in peace, versus Dada 5000, where it was just, it kind of makes you not want to be an MMA fan anymore, because it's just so poor. But back to my original point, I think Derrick Lewis is going to be like, you know what, you can try and, what I don't know what Gane is going to try and do. Is he going to try and grapple because he thinks, oh yeah, people can't grapple with Derrick Lewis? But then he knocked out Curtis Blades on the way in with a vicious uppercut that completely separated Curtis Blades' consciousness. Well, I don't know what his angle was going to be. When he came into the UFC, he obviously had a couple of submission wins, like random heel hook that you don't really see in heavyweights. And then he had a decision. And then it's been kind of like, okay, cool. You know, you beat a declining Junior Dos Santos with an illegal elbow to the back of the head, or, you know, what some people would say would be a legal elbow. And then it's kind of like, okay, cool. Rosenstruik was a bit of a dry fight as well. So, you know, I like Cyril Gane. I think he's got a lot of hype behind him. I think he's a fantastic athlete as well. You know, he's built like an absolute brick outhouse. But his win against Volkov, very, very poor, in my opinion. His win against Jairzinho Rosenstruik was very, very poor, in my opinion, as well. And then when you look at the caliber of fighter that he's been up against, Tanner Boser, is he ranked? I don't even know, because he's just kind of a bit of a floating fighter anyway. And then, you know, Rafael Paseo, I don't know, man. I really don't know. When you look at the fighters that Derrick Lewis has been up against for the past couple of years, he has beaten the best of the best in the heavyweight division. And, you know, even if he hasn't beaten them, he's fought the best of the best in the heavyweight division. You know, a loss to Daniel Cormier. Cool. No problem. Daniel Cormier is arguably one of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time. A loss to Mark Hunt. Cool. Mark Hunt was, you know, the one-punch walk-off master back in the day. You know, and then some of the people that he's beaten, Marcin Tybura, Volkov, Ilir Latifi, Olenek. He's beaten some very, very high caliber fighters. So, you know, is the Black Beast going to get the win here? I think he is. Is he going to be able to knock Cyril Gane out? I really, really hope he does. You know?
Yeah, man, I agree with you. And I think as well, there's two things, right? I don't think that Derrick Lewis fears Cyril Gane's knockout power, or he has no fear of that. So in that aspect, he's not worried. I think he can also learn a lot from the guy he fought in the most boring fight ever, Francis Ngannou. Ngannou, when he fought a guy who technically maybe is better than him in Stipe, he learned to be patient. He learned to pick his moments. So if Derrick Lewis can conserve that energy a little bit and fight and wait for the gap, because Cyril Gane will open up a gap at some point. You know, the guy's not experienced enough to keep himself closed off for 25 minutes. If Derrick Lewis can wait for that moment, and when he sees the moment, detonate the bomb that his hand possesses, Cyril Gane's in big trouble. He is in big trouble. And I really think that we're going to see Cyril Gane on the canvas out cold, and Derrick Lewis doing that traditional celebration that he does, Black Beast, all the way. That's the one. And then old Houston, baby. That's what I'm expecting.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of mental pressure on this gentleman as well, you know, coming out in Houston, Texas. Everyone's going to be screaming his name, chanting his name. The pressure is going to be huge, but Derrick Lewis doesn't strike me as someone that is going to deal with it badly. Do you know what I mean? I feel like he's going to be completely absorbing every single word that is thrown at him that night.
Man, he is going to absolutely love Saturday night. When he walks out on when they did UFC 262 Oliveira Chandler, and the camera went to Derrick Lewis, which obviously this was in Houston, the crowd went mental. When he walks out on Saturday night, that crowd is going to be deafeningly loud. He's going to eat up all of that on Saturday night. He's going to love every single second of it. And Cyril Gane is entering a bear pit. He is in for a uncomfortable. Everyone's going to be absolutely hating on him. Man, I think Derrick Lewis is going to absolutely love every second of this week. In hometown, everything about it just says Derrick Lewis winning to me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But, you know, do we see Gane getting booed?
Yes, 100%. 100%. We're in Texas, man. They're going to boo him.
It's true. It's true. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I think it is very much true.
100%, man. They booed Oliveira in Texas when he walked out. They're going to boo. They're definitely going to boo Cyril Gane because he's fighting Derrick Lewis. 100% that's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I'm buzzing for that fight, to be honest with you. I'm buzzing for that, and I'm buzzing for what it does to the heavyweight division as well. Obviously, there is a strap on the line. Do we see it going to Lewis, and then do we see Lewis fighting Francis before the year is out? Or do we see John Jones coming in for some? I mean, how does it work? You know, if you have an interim belt and someone beats you, do they then become the interim title holder? Or is it just kind of like, does it just disappear when someone else takes it?
No, I think once whoever wins on Saturday night, 100% because they hold the belt, will fight for the title next. There's no jump in the queue now. John Jones ain't even gonna be able to jump the queue, I don't reckon. Whoever wins on Saturday is 100% fighting for the title. So it's a big night for both guys. John Jones isn't any way near coming back to fight. He's so far off in terms of money, what he wants and what the UFC are going to pay. He ain't coming back anytime soon. The Stipe one is weird because of the fact that he does deserve the trilogy. That is a bit bizarre. But yeah, no, whoever wins on Saturday for me is definitely fighting for the title. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that gets done before the end of the year. Maybe Christmas time, we see that fight.
So let's just say we are correct on the fact that Derrick Lewis is going to win this fight. And obviously we will do a post UFC 256 show as well to break this down, just to see if we do get all of our predictions right. But if we see Lewis get the win here, he's going to be fighting Francis Ngannou by the end of the year. Do we see Ciryl Gane versus Stipe Miocic?
Why not? That's probably kind of where we might have to go with it. That might be where we have to go.
But then that is a very, very difficult fight for Ciryl Gane, because I don't think that Ciryl Gane possesses the experience and the exposure that Stipe has.
What about if Curtis Blades comes through his fight with Jairzinho Rozenstruik? Ciryl Gane against Blades? Maybe that might be a better one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, or even a rematch with Jairzinho wouldn't be off the cards either, because that's, call a spade here, and it was a poor fight.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the worst we've had this year. It was terrible. It had so much potential. Ciryl Gane had, like I said, he had the hype and the kind of very good kickboxing style that he possesses, that Muay Thai style. And Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a knockout artist. He throws bombs, and it was expected to be this incredible fight, and it was just a stalemate standoff fight for 25 minutes. It was really hideous. So yeah, maybe running that back might be good if providing Jairzinho beats Curtis Blades, which I'm going to throw an early thing out. I don't think he'll do. I think Curtis Blades will come back and get that job done.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. And I'm very, very much looking forward to it, man. And I'm looking forward to, what time's the main event start of the weekend? It's a late one for us over in the UK, right?
Yeah, man. I reckon that main event's going to be like a 5 a.m.er, isn't it?
Ooh, that is tough. It is a tough break for the European fans this weekend. I mean, George, you're better at this than I am. Have we got any cards coming up that are more in our favour?
The only one I know, but obviously it's been moved now from London back to Vegas, which is obviously Till Brunson on September the 4th. Apparently, they're going to try and run that at European time. So they'll do the fights in the afternoon in Vegas, which means we'll get it kind of like mid to late evening in the UK, which will be great. And the only other one, obviously, will be Fight Island. Fight Island will be on more European time, which is fantastic, in October, because obviously we've got Jan in the main event, Polish Power. You've got to get the Polish audience involved in that. And then, of course, we're going to see old little Petr Yan murder Aljamain Sterling. And that's obviously for the Russian crowd. And so we should get that on European timescale as well, fingers crossed. But yeah, man, it is a tough one for us. But I feel like we've got to get up for it, man. It's a big fight. We've got to see the Black Beast. We've got to see Ciryl Gane. Let's see what happens. So the alarm clock shall be set.
You know what? I'm going to leave the hardcore isms to you, my friend. I'm on a double on Saturday. So I apologize for not being as hardcore as I should be, but I am starting at 8 in the morning and I'm finishing at 11 at night, at least, at least. So it is what it is. I'm going to come home, sleep, and my body clock, as I said last week, my body clock will probably wake me up about 5 in the morning and be like, oh, is there UFC on? I get this little niggle in the back of my head that's like, is there some fights on or something? And then I'm all of a sudden I'm up and I'm ready to watch it. So fingers crossed it works, the timings work out and we don't see any fights fall off of this. I'm also very excited to see the face-off between Cyril Gane and Derrick Lewis. Neither of these gentlemen are very world-renowned for having an amazing trash talk or anything.
No, man. It's just going to be all Derrick Lewis is just going to do what Derrick Lewis does, which is kind of jokingly like cruise his way through the week. You know, he's got this unique style to his kind of like fight week. And we haven't seen Cyril Gane in such a big event before. So this is going to be a completely new thing. We're going to find out quite a lot about Cyril Gane this week, you know, at the press conference, at the weigh-ins, at the whole lot. It's going to be an interesting one. See what kind of Cyril Gane turns up to a UFC numbered pay-per-view event.
I am buzzing for it, man. I am buzzing for it. Anyway, until next time, George, thank you very much, as always, for being on the Fight and Talk 2 podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all of the major outlets and listening platforms, as well as the Sportinarium radio station. If you are listening to us over there, thank you very much. Don't forget to check us out on all the other platforms. We do appreciate it. Now, George, just quickly before we go, who's in casual crush corner this week?
Oh, great question. There's so many good options. Let's just go for it. Let's go right at the main event. If it's actually, there's two, right? Let's go for the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Casey Kenny come back out and fight this week. I'm looking forward to seeing that fight as well. So let's go with those two, Derrick Lewis and Casey Kenny. Beautiful,
man. Beautiful. Let's hope they are the ones crushing the cans and not the ones being crushed themselves, man. Until next time, we are the Fight and Talk 2 team. Thank you very much for listening and stay safe out there.